Hey everyone, let me ask you this. If the Federal Reserve becomes a puppet of the White House, is America still the land of the free? And more importantly, are your dollar assets now hanging by a thread? On August 25, a red alert popped up on your phone. Breaking. Trump announces immediate dismissal of Fed Governor Cook. You might be rubbing your eyes thinking, is this real? But global markets didn't even blink. Dollar assets like the USD, US bonds, and stock futures faced another sell-off, while safe haven gold surged. What seemed like an ordinary personnel change turned out to be a monetary Pearl Harbor event. Who is this Lisa Cook? Why would a governor rarely mentioned on financial news channels cause global capital to spiral out of control? Hello everyone, I'm Luna, here to help you translate macro trends into numbers in your bank account. Today, I'll spend 20 minutes peeling back the layers of the Lisa Cook firing incident. Because behind this dismissal lies the first real crack in the dominance of the US dollar. This doesn't just change one person's career. It affects the global economy. Stirred by the butterfly effect of this event, it could even challenge America's free democracy. What exactly is Trump up to this time? Why did he fire Lisa Cook? What secrets lie behind this? How will this storm impact the US and the world? And what should retail investors like us do? If you understand today's video, Trump's hat trick will be laid bare before you. This dramatic saga could become your wealth code for catching the next market trend. Alright, let's dive straight in. Today, we're unpacking the love-hate relationship between Trump and the Fed. First, let's get the full story of this upheaval and see why Trump made his move against Lisa Cook. Please rewind to August 25, 2025. Trump posted an open letter on social media. Using the power given to me by Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 as amended, I hereby terminate your Cook's position as member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, effective immediately. In just 2 lines, he shattered the Fed's century-long record of 0 presidential dismissals. Even more boldly, Cook fired back 4 hours later. The president has no authority to remove me, an obscure Fed technocrat standing up to the White House. This kind of drama is straight out of a TV series. Who is Lisa Cook, and why did she catch Trump's attention? What's the story between them? Let's first understand who Lisa Cook is. She may not be as powerful as Powell or as famous as Apple's Cook, but she's a legendary figure in her own right, a true American dream story. Let's take a look at the glow of the Statue of Liberty shining upon her. First, she's an experienced economics PhD, a professor of economics at Michigan State University, and has served as a government economic advisor. She is also the first African American woman to serve as a Fed governor. She was nominated by President Biden. Her term lasts until 2038. She is a history maker who broke the glass ceiling for Black women. So why was Trump so determined to fire such an accomplished, professional, and academically respected technocrat? Let's hear what Trump had to say. Trump was direct, slapping her with a charge of mortgage fraud, a reason that sounds righteous and just. But here's the question, based on what we know about Trump, is he really that justified? What's the story behind this so-called mortgage fraud? First, we know that the person leveling these accusations against Cook is William Poult, a close ally appointed by Trump himself. Poult is the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, alleging that Cook violated rules when applying for a mortgage loan to buy a house in 2021. He claims Cook bought 2 properties, one in Michigan and one in Georgia, and declared both as her primary residence on the loan applications. In short, he accused Cook of exploiting the primary residence mortgage rate discount. And that's lying. It's fraud. It's financial crime. He made these claims with righteous indignation, but more interestingly, just last month, he accused Fed Chair Powell of lying about the renovation of the Fed's headquarters and called for an investigation. This is misconduct. He should be removed for cause. He posted on social media, Chair Powell must be investigated by Congress immediately. amid Trump's repeated pressures on the Fed to cut interest rates and his administration's crackdown on Democrats and efforts to weaken day programs. Are these accusations and demands as straightforward as they seem? Are these justifiable reasons truly justifiable? As we all know, Powell recently surprised everyone by turning unexpectedly dovish. What about Cook? How did she respond to Poult's accusations? On August 15, the materials alleging Cook's financial crimes were submitted to the Justice Department, which immediately stated that a preliminary investigation would be launched. On August 20, Trump himself publicly called for Fed Governor Lisa Cook to resign now. But he met his match. Cook responded, explaining that the mortgage application occurred before I joined the Fed. She said she wouldn't resign, wouldn't be bullied, and would handle her financial history with seriousness, gather accurate information, and answer reasonable questions with facts. Her response was defiant, and it angered Trump, who urged Powell to fire the uncooperative Lisa Cook immediately. On August 25, Trump, ever the social media enthusiast, announced on his platform that he had signed documents to dismiss Fed Governor Lisa Cook for alleged mortgage fraud, effective immediately. Once again, tough cookie Cook fired back. She said, "I will continue to fulfill my duty to stabilize the U.S. economy." Trump doesn't have the authority to fire her from the Fed, and she won't resign. She acted swiftly, filing a lawsuit against Trump the very next day, August 26. Their battle has entered a new phase. The back and forth could fill an entire episode of a TV drama. So why is Trump so fixated on Cook? True, Cook is the first black female Fed governor, handpicked by Biden, which makes her a prime target for Trump. But is she really worth all this political drama? Actually, Trump's real target isn't Cook herself, but the independent Federal Reserve behind her. Why is Trump so obsessed with the Fed? You don't need to think too hard, just look at his ongoing battle with Powell over interest rate cuts. Trump wants rate cuts. He wants strong economic data for the election, but Powell won't budge without cause, and that's driving Trump crazy. It's the Fed's job to maintain price stability and employment. Everything depends on data. It can't just cut rates because Trump says so, and the Fed is independent. So what can Trump do? Well, he's nothing if not daring. Recently, the Trump administration has launched similar legal attacks left and right. Even Democratic Senator Adam Schiff has been accused of mortgage loan violations. With lawsuits today and investigations tomorrow, who in the financial system would dare defy the federal government? Isn't this clearly a politically motivated purge? A classic case of using law enforcement to pressure political opponents? His intentions are plain to see. The answer is already clear. Trump wants to extend his reach into the Fed and make it submit to his will. Let's take a look at what Trump has done to break through the Fed's protective shield of independence. I've broken down Trump's playbook into 3 steps to assassination, each pushing the trust in the dollar closer to the edge. Trump's first move is to behead Powell. As the saying goes, to catch the bandits, first catch their king. Trump's target has always been clear. We all saw what happened at the Jackson Hole meeting on August 23. Powell suddenly turned dovish. The balance of risks is shifting, and policy must adjust. The market thought it was an economic signal. But in reality, it was also a final compromise to Trump. Since Powell has already bowed, what's Trump's next move? It's to purge the Board of Governors. The Fed has 7 governors. Trump already holds 2 votes, with Cook fired and Biden-nominated Governor Kugler retiring early. Trump needs only one more ally to secure a 4/7 majority. Just like that, the independent Fed decision-making body could overnight become a White House cabinet. If this step succeeds, if Lisa Cook is successfully pushed out, where will Trump point his knife next? The answer is purging the regional Feds. A significant source of the Fed's independence comes from the 12 regional Fed presidents, elected by local business leaders and insulated from political influence. This system has long kept the Fed from becoming a toy for politicians, but in theory, if the majority of the Fed board is stacked with Trump allies, he could even fire every single regional Fed president if he wanted to. By next March, the terms of all 12 regional presidents are set to expire around the same time. If their reappointments or removals get messed with, the regional firewall vanishes overnight, and the Fed becomes Trump's personal piggy bank. History has proven that letting politicians play with the economy is a disastrous decision. Back in 1970, Nixon dragged his old friend Fed Chair Arthur Burns into the White House late at night and yelled, "If you raise rates, you're against me," so Burns caved. And what followed was the stagflation of 1973, with gold soaring 23 times over 20 years, but even Nixon's intense pressure on Burns happened behind the scenes. He never went as far as an actual dismissal. In the Fed's 100-year history, no sitting governor has ever been directly fired by a president. This time, Trump used Twitter to do what Nixon didn't dare, tearing open a red line that had never been crossed for a century. So, the answer to why did the market explode after Cook's firing becomes obvious, because everyone suddenly realized this isn't about Cook's fate. It's the first public execution of the Fed's independence myth. Remember, to ensure monetary policy decisions are based on data, economic analysis, and the long-term interests of the American people unaffected by presidential changes. Fed governors have long, fixed terms. The president can only remove them for cause, but now Trump is using an allegation of fraud, still under investigation and far from proven, as an excuse to fire Cook. This sets a dangerous precedent. If this rule is broken, could any future U.S. president replace any Fed governor they dislike with a flimsy excuse? Would the Fed still be the Fed? Would rate cuts and hikes still follow any logic? The past prosperity of U.S. stocks wasn't because the U.S. government was rich, but because the Fed was independent, making decisions based on economic data, not politics. This made the Fed predictable. When inflation rose, it hiked rates. When the economy slowed, it cut rates. But when predictability vanishes, trust collapses, and risk premiums rise. Look at how financial markets reacted immediately after Cook's firing. The U.S. dollar index fell 0.3. The U.S. Treasury yield curve steepened further. As markets bet that Trump's push for deeper, faster rate cuts was more likely to succeed, combined with the impact of tariffs on long-term inflation. This could push short-term rates lower but long-term rates higher. U.S. stock index futures also plummeted. The Nasdaq 100 index contract fell. The drop wasn't huge, but the signal was powerful. It dragged down major Asia-Pacific indexes with it. South Korea's KOSPI, China's Shanghai Composite, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng all fell. European stocks couldn't escape the decline either. As markets began reassessing the risks to Fed independence, safe haven sentiment rose, and gold hit a new August high. After the Cook incident, global central banks are starting to reassess. Are my trillions of U.S. bond holdings still safe? Once that answer is in doubt, gold becomes the only asset with no counterparty risk. Moreover, if Trump gains control of the board next spring, rate cuts will become politically prioritized, real rates would fall, and gold's theoretical price would naturally rise. History also offers an answer. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window, and gold rose from $35 to $195. Now, Trump wants to close the Fed independence window. Will gold repeat its 50-year-old script? If the U.S. dollar is no longer trustworthy, what can safeguard our wealth? When monetary policy becomes a political bargaining chip, global capital is collectively realizing for the first time. What we need isn't dollars. It's an anchor of trust. Remember this, the more chaotic the system, the more precious cash flow becomes. And the more valuable non-sovereign assets are. As the Fed's firewall cracks, how are you positioning your assets? Feel free to share your strategies and questions in the comments. I'm Luna, here to help you translate macro trends into numbers in your bank account. If you found this video helpful, please like, follow, and comment. I'll see you in the comments section. Bye for now.